Chapter 10, Blossoming Peach Blossoms One After Another. Siwang paid no attention. In such situations, it was clear what the two of them were up to. You could catch them once, but not twice. Besides, Xu had just gotten married, and he didn't want to spoil his niece's mood. Men are all the same outside. He was used to it. You can manage them for a time, but not forever. Siwang got home at 3 a.m. Xu Yiyi, half asleep, felt herself being held in a warm embrace. She was deep in sleep and didn't think much of it. It was finally a good night's sleep. The next morning, when she woke up, there was no one beside her. She even doubted if the embrace from last night was just a dream. Had Siwang really come back? It wasn't until she heard noises coming from the kitchen that she was sure Siwang was home. Xu Yiyi went over and, seeing his broad back, couldn't help but hug him from behind. "What time did you come back last night?" "About 3. A friend had some trouble," Siwang said. He had planned to return earlier, but when Li and his girl had been having a major argument, and the brothers had tried to mediate for a long time. "Oh, so you're up early to make breakfast?" "You could have woken me up, I can make sandwiches too," Xu Yiyi said coquettishly. "No need. I wanted you to sleep a bit more." Siwang turned around, carrying 2 sandwiches, and walked out of the kitchen. Xu Yiyi followed him and looked at the sandwiches with some disgust. She wasn't particularly fond of them, and having them almost every morning since the marriage had given her a psychological barrier. But she still had to pretend to enjoy them. "By the way, I saw Xu Yiyi last night," Siwang suddenly mentioned. Xu Yiyi was startled and felt a pang of anxiety. She was quite afraid of Siwang bringing up Xu Yiyi because she worried he might discover her own secret. "Oh? What about it?" Xu Yiyi asked casually, tearing off a piece of tissue to wipe the crumbs from her mouth. "He and Xiao have only been married for 3 months, and he's already misbehaving." Siwang's face was cold, and his tone was even colder. Xu Yiyi was ready to gloat, thinking Xu Yiyi had been caught cheating and might be kicked out of the Bai family. However, Siwang interrupted her thoughts, saying, "I didn't intervene." "Huh?" Xu Yiyi blinked in confusion and then asked, "Was it just you who saw them?" "I didn't catch them in the act, he didn't see me, but I saw him." Siwang briefly explained the situation. Xu Yiyi was immediately disappointed. Siwang hadn't made a fuss about it. However, Xu Yiyi was really bold. After finally climbing into the Bai family, he dared to fool around outside. He really couldn't control his lower body. Wasn't he afraid Xu would find out? "Aren't you worried about your niece being wronged?" Xu Yiyi didn't understand. Siwang and Xu had a good relationship, and Xu was also quite flattering to Siwang. Siwang often acted like an elder in front of Xu. If she were Siwang, she would definitely give Xu Yiyi a good lesson. "You don't understand because you're not a man," Siwang replied. "If a man really has no bad intentions, there's no need to intervene. But if intervention is needed, you can manage it once, but not forever. I don't have the energy to deal with their marital issues." With Siwang's explanation, Xu Yiyi understood his meaning. She agreed with him. Indeed, if a man was truly faithful, there would be no need for control. Unfaithful men can't be managed no matter what. Xiao is quite pitiful. It's still the honeymoon period, and Xu Yiyi is already acting up, Xu Yiyi sighed. In sympathizing with Xu, she was also pitying herself. 7 years of love given to such a man, and her lost youth was gone forever. She felt an inexplicable kinship with Xu. Pitiful? You're idealizing her. She only appears good in front of you. Siwang shook his head, then stood up and said, "I'll go change. You get ready, and we'll go to the company together." "Okay," Xu Yiyi agreed. But Siwang's words just now reminded her. Xu wasn't a saint. Xu Yiyi probably wouldn't be free for long. She was still quite looking forward to the drama. At a street corner before the company, Xu Yiyi got out of the car. This was the arrangement she had made with Siwang to avoid being seen by company staff when getting out of the parking lot. Therefore, she got out early at the corner. She went to the company, arriving a bit late, and it was just in time for the elevator rush hour. While waiting, a young man suddenly approached her. She looked up and thought the person seemed familiar. "Secretary Xu, hello." The man greeted her proactively. With the crowd bustling and everyone chatting, no one paid attention to them. Xu Yiyi was somewhat puzzled but still politely replied, "Hello. Do you remember me?" The man looked a bit shy and introduced himself, "I'm Mo from the marketing department. Last time you came to deliver documents, I was the one who received them." Xu Yiyi finally recognized him and hurriedly said, "Hello, Mo. How does Secretary Xu come to work? Do you take the subway? Where do you live now?" Mo asked excitedly. With so many employees at the Fu Corporation, this was his first time encountering Xu Yiyi at the company. He felt that fate was about to come. Xu Yiyi found these questions a bit abrupt and awkwardly smiled, unsure whether to answer. She wasn't good at lying. Just then, everyone surged into the elevator, and Xu Yiyi and Mo followed, cutting off the conversation. In the elevator, everyone was packed closely together, and Xu Yiyi and Mo fell silent. When the marketing department's floor arrived, Mo reluctantly looked back at Xu Yiyi and finally mustered the courage to ask, "Secretary Xu, can I add you on WeChat?" The others in the elevator began to tease them. Xu Yiyi then understood Mo's intention. Since they were colleagues, and with everyone urging them on, she didn't want to embarrass Mo and agreed to add him on WeChat. Mo, satisfied, exited the elevator, and the elevator doors closed and continued upward. Mo eagerly sent Xu Yiyi a message. "Secretary Xu, can I invite you to dinner after work tonight? If it's convenient, there's a new movie recently released. If you haven't seen it, we could watch it together. Animated emoji. Mo was excited. Xu Yiyi returned to her desk and glanced at her phone. She was a bit annoyed and replied, "Sorry, I have to work overtime tonight. As soon as the message was sent, Ma Rong came in with a coffee cup and teased Xu Yiyi, "Secretary Xu, you really have peach blossoms blooming one after another. First it was Assistant Xu, and now it's Manager Chung from the marketing department. You're truly irresistible." Xu Yiyi was stunned. Good news never leaves the door, but bad news travels 1,000 miles. She didn't expect that just adding WeChat in the elevator would spread so quickly. If this got back to Siwang, it would be a bit troublesome.